वेलकम टू मेन स्ट्रीम विद हरप्रीत सिंह तूर। आप सब ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਨਮਸਕਾਰ, ਆਦਾਬ and shalom. Every week when I come and there is always a debate what to discuss and what to leave out because so many things happen so often. But first let me say you can see the email address on the screen, justoor@gmail.com. Feel free to email me your questions whenever you want. If I can't answer today, I will definitely include the answers in the next show. And also you can even call in at 844-324-1300 844-324-1300. That's the number where you can always call me live on the show if you have any questions. First, let me start with the death of our Chief Minister of Punjab, Sardar Parkash Singh Badal, who actually became the Chief Minister of Punjab for 5 times, from 1970 to 1971, then 77 to 1980. In 77 it was after emergency, then from 97 to 2002. And then from 2007 to 2017. So even though I read only 4 times, but the 5th time was because in 2007 and 17, Akali Dal won the election again and he became the president. He definitely played a major role. He was a very towering figure in Punjab politics, Eastern Punjab, whatever is left of Punjab, like I always say. He was also part of the movement to create the Punjabi Suba, where we got this mini Punjab out of the complete Punjab, which was divided between India and Pakistan. And now whatever we have was divided into Himachal and Haryana and Punjab. So what we have left of Punjab, he was the chief minister of that Punjab from 70 onward. He never became the chief minister of Punjab when Punjab was, Haryana and Himachal was part of the Punjab. I think Himachal probably became, of course Himachal came out of Punjab first. Now the question comes up about his contribution to Punjab. The contribution to, depending on how you look at it, where Punjab is today, where it was, and what happened, and whether it was 1978 where 13 Sikhs got killed on one of the Nirankaris' march or one of their walk in Amritsar, and then 1980s saw the Punjab, the attack on Golden Temple. Harchand Singh Longowal was the president of Shromani Akali Dal at that time when that thing happened. But in the final moments of agreement which was signed by Harchand Singh Longowal and Rajiv Gandhi, Parkash Singh Badal, the chief minister, the ex-chief minister and incoming chief minister down the road, he literally got out of the car a couple of blocks before the residence of the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. Harchand Singh Longowal signed the agreement and Surjit Singh Barnala became the Chief Minister of Punjab at that time after the election. The interesting thing is that the agreement which was signed never got implemented, like any other agreement with Punjab which was signed by the central government. It never got implemented because Punjabis in general and Sikhs in particular have always been used as a, like in chess game you have the soldiers, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਪਿਆਦਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, as those to be sacrificed. And there is no doubt about it that the Sikhs, they feel proud of their contribution to the freedom of India and freedom of protesting peacefully, which Gandhi stole the idea and then became actually the face of that movement, that how peacefully you can win. And I can go on and on, but that's not the point. The point is that we, as a community, the Sikhs, we have failed to achieve a lot of things because, number one, emotional. Number two, the politics is such a game that politicians, they always look at how they can win the next election. And there was something, which also was initiated by the former Chief Minister of Punjab, Sardar Parkash Badal, was to borrow the money and distribute to the people. Shagun scheme or this scheme or that scheme, free electricity, but everything comes from somewhere to be paid off, and loans were taken out, and the biggest part of the Punjab loan happens to be two factors. One is 80s and 90s, and the other is the giveaway by various governments, including Sardar Parkash Badal, who actually ruled for a longer time than some of the other chief ministers. Right now we have our current chief minister from Aam Aadmi Party, Bhagwant Singh Mann, which has its own, we will see, it is only 1 year. It takes time to actually see the realities taking shape of the new thoughts on the ground. Yes, there are things which we read on the media, social media, posts by different people, including the ministers and everybody. But how much they have succeeded to root out the corruption which was always accepted, I don't know yet. One thing I definitely know, that still on the ground level, the corruption is still there. And I'm talking about actual happenings, because somebody just came back from India after a couple of things, taking care of a few things, and he was talking about how he paid to get everything done. And also that reminds me, which is the personal experience I'm going to share with you, is that somebody actually walked into my office. There was some immigration issue, and I told them, after inquiring about where the issue is, where the party, who sponsored, and this and that. So I told them that this is the way they have to do. Instead of paying an attorney right now, they should be going to some congressman of that area. And I even told them the way to reach out and do the stuff. And I did not charge anything. And the funny thing, interesting thing, it is not funny, it did definitely, I did give her a lecture after that. She said, well, we can pay you if you want, but we want you to get the things done. And I said, I'm not charging anything. She was like, well, if we don't pay, the things may not happen. See, the mindset is such that we have refused to accept that anybody can be honest. That is the tragedy of the modern India. Even though we have the current Prime Minister Modi, for almost 10 years now, more than 9 years, or close to 9 years, one way or the other. The question is, the corruption is still there. And when you talk about it, they always talk about the previous government's corruption. They don't talk about their corruption, even though they are sitting at the helms for more than 9 years now, or close to 9 years. So Parkash Singh Badal was also a product of that, or we can say that the current administration, the current goings on in India by the politicians, he was also one of those politicians who actually, instead of trying to fight the corruption, he looked the other way. The history is going to judge on his achievements, but there are few things which definitely I am going to say. One is which I just talked about, the loans and everything. And the other thing was, that Anandpur Sahib Mata. Everybody talks about it, but nobody really looks at it closely what the Anandpur Sahib Mata is. That was actually to give the states the rights which were actually originally thought and talked about at the time of the freedom, and they were not provided to the states. That was part of the Anandpur Sahib Mata. And some of the politicians of that time from the opposition parties, they agreed with that, including some of the leaders who actually belonged to the current ruling party. But later on, because politically it did not serve them, like I mentioned, that Sikhs were used as a piyada, Punjab was used as a piyada, so to win their nationally elections and other things. So that is how the whole thing fell into the cracks. And all of a sudden that Anandpur Sahib Mata became, like in English they say, albatross around the neck of the Sikhs and the Punjabis. And the sad part also is that the Punjabi Hindus, they did not actually support politically what actually belongs to Punjab as a state, not as a community, not as a individual group from your beliefs or your faith, but as the resident of the Punjab, which you have been living for generations, for centuries, for millennium. And those people refuse to shoulder the responsibility, and that actually gave another leg up to those politicians to divide the communities within Punjab so that they can win the elections. And that is another thing which Punjab actually faced and is facing, and Punjab will face for a long time to come unless we have the statesmen who actually can take those decisions, the political decisions, whether those are cutting down on the freebies which are being given out or have been given out or were being given out and will be given out, and also to raise some revenues from the sources which actually will support some of the schemes. So I'm out of this whole conversation. When I come back, I'm definitely going to still talk about the Punjab and some of the current recent developments in Punjab right after the break. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. Like I said, you can always call us on the number 844-324-1300. 844-324-1300. This is the number where you can call and get in touch if you have any questions, any suggestions, or you can email at hstour@gmail.com, which you can always see on the screen. So going back to continuing the Punjab saga, right now we have the issues of Amritpal Singh. Some of the people they are talking about that he was just, including his dad is saying he was just fighting the war against the drugs. I personally have two things to say on that. Number one, yes, his fight against the drug was welcomed. His drive to preach and Amrit Prachar was appreciated, but I still have to see where the Amrit Prachar is done under the shadows of the guns, which he was doing. I can't understand that, number one. Number two, he took Guru Granth Sahib to the police station to get one of his associates who was detained for questioning, using Guru Granth Sahib as a shield. And I have to say that I do respect at that time the decision taken by the police officers to not to precipitate the situation where anything will touch the holy book, Guru Granth Sahib. And then had it happened, the whole Punjab would have been burning even today. So in the long term, I don't know what the chances are, what the perspective is, but two things are very clear moving forward. They said he was arrested from Rode, and he's saying he surrendered from Rode, and the government was looking for him for more than a month. I don't believe it. Government probably let him stay at the Rode till after the Vaisakhi, and they negotiated the whole thing that, okay, you know what, you can stay there as long as you don't do X, Y, and Z. And probably it may be true, it may not be true, but to me, it was another way to disturb the peace in Punjab, where the government played either active role or inactive role, both the state government and the central government. I'm not saying federal, because federal structure of India has been compromised and it is being compromised. So a lot of people, they will never understand federal government in India. In United States we do, because states have their own rights and we need to look at that. So this was something, which I don't know, there are speculations, people are talking about it, and I'm going to discuss here with you for a minute. And that speculation is that Amritpal was being actually groomed to create a situation in Punjab just like in 80s and 90s, and then declare a presidential rule because of the law and order situation is out of control, and the AAP government and Bhagwant Singh Mann cannot take control of it. And somehow Bhagwant Singh Mann's image is stuck. It is not his fault, and because he was a comedian, and he used to drink a lot. People don't understand one thing, that if the person is comedian, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have the brain. He probably has one of the best brain, because he can pull out the comedy out of any situation. And I always admire one of his remarks when he took over as the Chief Minister of Punjab. Somebody did ask him about his experience in the government and how he's planning to manage the government and manage the government affairs. And he made a simple statement. He said, well, I have the power to hire the best brains, and that's what I will do to govern the state. That actually shows the intelligence of the person itself in that just one statement. Because nobody is perfect in all the fields, but if the person can understand that what he needs to do and who can get it done, that you have already won more than half the fight. And that's where I got to admire him. So we will see how further this whole situation will unfold. But again, Parkash Singh Badal, at the age of 95, he passed away earlier today in India. And his funeral will take place at the Badal village. I think it is scheduled for tomorrow. I haven't looked into the details yet, but yes, that actually closes one of the chapter in Punjab history, because doesn't matter when and where and who writes the Punjab history, Parkash Singh Badal will be one of the central figure. And I have to admit one more thing, that the people of Punjab, they did accepted him as a leader of the community, Sikh as well as non-Sikhs, that he was a leader. Everybody has their own differences, their own way of looking at it, their own way of thinking about it. But yes, he was a leader with a mass appeal in Punjab and beyond that. So with that note, let's move to the next thing, which also affects. I'm going to talk about a very important thing which took place in New York State Senate yesterday, and also in Assembly, and I will also talk about the differences. But before we do that, in American politics, Joe Biden declared his presidency earlier this morning by releasing a video to run for the second term as a president of the United States. You know, it's really interesting that how we already have the first election is not even over yet, and the people were talking about 2024. Then 2022 election was not even over for the House and the Senate, and they started talking about 2024 election for the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. And yes, for the 2024 presidential race, it never stopped after 2020. And one of the reasons why it will be interesting is because the former president, Donald Trump, refused to accept that he ever lost the election. And there are different cases going on, different things happening. And Fox News was one of the biggest news of the last week, when more than $787 million were paid to Dominion for falsifying the information. And out of that falsification, yesterday, Fox News fired Carl Tuckerson, who was actually one of the biggest voice and biggest mouth for Donald Trump on Fox News. And his show was one of the biggest watched cable network show, on which was actually what they call free, because other channels you have to pay one way or the other. But this is something which was free of subscription on the channel itself. So that actually is going to be very interesting for 2024 election, that how people who are actually looking and who are already making decisions, deciding on Joe Biden, that his age, and Trump about his age. Yeah, Joe Biden will be about 86 by the time he reaches November 2024. But the question for me is, it goes even beyond that. So far, he has done a great job, no doubt about it. It's not because I'm a fan of him, but actually literally when we look at his achievement for regular Americans, it's substantial. Again, which history will prove down the road. And also at the same time, we have the former President Donald Trump, who actually is also running, and he is already under investigation. There is probably going to be other cases on him. One was already done by Alvin Bragg in Manhattan in New York. That is also something which is interesting, that how Alvin Bragg is being threatened by the statements and everything. And this is really becoming a circus, if I may say, that how the House is being used to protect Trump directly or indirectly, and New York City is being shown as one of the places where you can't walk 2 blocks without getting shot or killed or robbed. it is such a wrong message going out. Whereas when you look at statistically, there are more people being killed in red states than in the blue states. If you know what I mean when I say red states. And on the other hand, the guns, the freedom of carrying the gun, carrying the license without any, training, background inspection in Florida and some other states, and some of the other states are running for it. It's amazing that how they are tipping over each other for that. So we will see how it transforms. We will see the reactions also when I come back next week for my show. Then definitely we will talk about it. But let's take a break before we talk about the happenings which took place yesterday at New York State Senate. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. Once again, you can reach me out to me, 844-324-1300. If you have any suggestions, any calls, or anything on your mind which you would like me to discuss on this show. I'm going to talk about, like I mentioned, about the resolution which was passed in New York State Senate and Assembly. The differences of the resolutions and how and what difference does it make to the community, to the Sikhs in particular. I'm going to read first the Senate resolution which was brought to the floor by Kevin Thomas, the senator from Long Island, and Joe Adabo, the senator from Queens. And the Senate, actually, the Senate session was started with the Ardas from Gyani Taramveer Singh around 11 o'clock, a little bit after 11 o'clock. And the resolution which was passed, which was read by Senator Thomas and which was passed unanimously, it says memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 2023 as Sikh Awareness Month in the state of New York. Now it says over here where that it is the custom of legislative body, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes on to some other technical language. And then it goes down to proud to memorialize to proclaim April 23 as Sikh Awareness Month in the state of New York. And whereas Sikhs have been living in the United States for more than 100 years, and during the early 20th century, thousands of the Sikh Americans worked on farms, in lumber mills and mines, and on the Oregon Pacific Eastern Railroad, which is a fact. And whereas Sikhism is fifth largest religion in the world, and today there are more than 30 million Sikhs worldwide and estimated 500,000 Sikhs Americans. And whereas Vaisakhi is one of the most historically significant days of the year for Sikhs and is celebrated on April 14, 2023. That's the day when it was celebrated this year. And whereas 2023 is the 554th birthday of the first of the 10 gurus and founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak. This day celebrated for the Sikhs in a year, New York State and worldwide as Guru Nanak's Gurpurab, and is one of the most important dates in Sikh calendar. And whereas Sikh Americans pursue diverse professions and make rich contributions to the social, cultural, economic vibrancy and of the United States, including service as members of United States Armed Forces and significant contributions to our great nation in agriculture, information technology, small businesses, hotel industry, trucking, medicine, and technology. Whereas Sikh Americans distinguished themselves by fostering respect among all people through faith and service, and the state of New York is committed to educating citizens about the world's religions, the value of religious diversity, tolerance, grounded in First Amendment principles, a culture of mutual understanding, and a diminution of violence. And whereas today the state of New York seeks to further diversity of its community and afford all residents the opportunity to better understand, recognize, and appreciate the rich history and shared experiences of Sikh Americans. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this legislature body pauses in its deliberations to memorialize Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 2023 as Sikh Awareness Month in the state of New York. So, and it was passed, and after the resolution was passed, the senators actually got up and they actually applauded the people who were there, about a dozen or so Sikhs who came from New York and other areas to be there, and there was kids and women also to attend the event. And now I'm going to talk about the other resolution which was passed in the assembly, which was brought by Assemblywoman Jennifer Rajkumar. And it is being shown, or it is being advertised as Sikh Awareness Resolution, which it is not. And there are some other facts also which are being twisted by elected officials, whether it was the mayor of New York City or the Assemblywoman Jennifer Rajkumar about the Diwali. I'm going to talk about that on that after I read this resolution, because it is important to understand what is said and what actually happened and what should have happened. And if nobody will talk about it, nobody would know about it. And I know it is really hard to digest the facts, but somebody got to say it. So here is the resolution memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 2023 as Punjabi Awareness Month. Not the Sikh Awareness Month, but Punjabi Awareness Month. Okay? And then after that, at the beginning, like previous one, then it goes on to proclaim April 2023 as Punjabi Awareness Month in state of New York, in conjunction with the observance of Vaisakhi to be celebrated April 14, 2023. Whereas Punjab is a diverse, vibrant state in northern India, replete with culture, history, known around the world as the birthplace of Sikhism. Yes, it is true. But Guru Nanak Dev was born in Punjab, which is on the other side of the border now, in Pakistan. The first South Asian to immigrate to United States were Punjabis, overwhelmingly Sikhs, who arrived in large numbers in late 19th and early 20th century to work as laborers in the California and Pacific Northwest, and Punjabi American community continued to flourish, now numbering in hundreds of thousands, including one of the largest Sikh population in the world. And Punjabi Americans contribute to all facets of life. In Vaisakhi is one of the most. Again, it is about the Vaisakhi, and there is definitely some mention of the Sikhs, but not the way we would like to see. The significance of Vaisakhi continued to evolve, becoming the date of the coronation of Ranjit Singh as the first Maharaja of the Sikh Empire in 1801. Celebration of Vaisakhi takes various local forms in South Asia and around the world, with Sikh celebrations including social gatherings, Nagar Kirtan, hymns, raising Nishan Sahib flags, distribution of food, and visits to Gurdwara, their houses of worship. And whereas many Hindus observe Vaisakhi with activities such as ritual bathing in sacred rivers, festivals, charitable acts, and processions. See the difference between the Senate resolution and Assembly resolution. Even though it was being shown as Sikh Awareness Month, but it is not true. So it goes on, whereas Richmond Hill is an epicenter of Sikhism in the Western Hemisphere, home to one of the largest Sikh communities outside of India, and often referred to as Little Punjab. This legislative body is pleased to have this opportunity to recognize such events of significance which foster ethnic pride and exemplify the cultural diversity. So then it goes on to Kathy Hochul, and also then resolved that a copies of this resolution suitably engrossed be transmitted to Consul General of India and various Indian and Sikh organizations in state of New York. See, that's the difference. Both resolutions, for the Senate, it is number 633, and for Assembly, it is number 324. Again, for the New York State Senate, the resolution number is 633, and Assembly, it is 325, which you can Google it and you can see the differences. And now what I'm going to say here is, somehow last year when Diwali happened, Assemblywomen Jennifer Rajkumar and Mayor Eric Adams announced about the Diwali holiday. And everybody thought that they have declared Diwali as a holiday in the schools, in public schools of New York City. But in fact, what they had done was they just announced that they will ask to declare Diwali as a public holiday in New York City schools, because New York State Assembly passes the law, New York State Senate passes the law. In the meantime, over here, we have New York City City Council, where Councilwoman Linda Lee is pushing for that. She already talked about it on this show. She probably is going to come back again. And the Speaker, Adrian Adams, has also to some extent admitted to look at it seriously and give it a thought. So that's the difference between the facts and the fiction. And I want you, the viewers, to understand. And that's why I read it, and that's why I'm commenting on it for both. And let's take a break. After the break, I will be right back. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. We are in the last segment of today's show. Few things which we still haven't discussed. There are a lot of things which we did not discuss yet, but there are a few things which we should. And one of them is somehow Ukraine war is still going on, and nobody is really much talking about it, because except throwing some information here and there, besides that, nothing else is being discussed. Because what happens is, when something happens, people move on. Social media has made our memory and everything so short and quick. TikTok and Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, all these apps, you are like moving on and on and on, quick, and go. And that is why the happenings in the world, sometimes they just fall on, people forget about it. That's what happens. And that's why it is important to keep an eye on what happened, was there any resolution to it or not, and what is going on, and what could happen down the road. We don't know. But, there are few things which are really interesting about, which I'm just going to throw in here before the end of the show, that Manish Sisodia, CBI did put up a charge sheet and included the name of Manish Sisodia after so long. But in the meantime, Adani is missing no action against him, and some other people also. So, and you can see this whole line of people joining BJP, and if you look at their fortunes, how they made their fortunes, then you don't need to be an Einstein, like they say, to put one and one together. And also, Tucker Carlson's fall from Fox, That actually is a big thing. Would the Fox change? I don't think so. It may change a little bit. It may change in a way that you and I may not see it. And it may change like getting less pushing the lies, but lies still will get pushed. I personally wanted the case to go to trial because that would have actually made every other media, whosoever even thought of doing something like that, to just stop in its track even before it starts. I think it is Newsmax, which is another channel which is like that. And then we have this My Pillow CEO, that's another person. So, and let's not forget, Fox still has another thing to go, another cases to fight and go. And in the meantime, we have the case going on right now for what do we call Proud Boys, who attacked the Capitol Hill on January 6th. And then we have Kevin McCarthy, who is putting out some of the details about how he wants to, what he wants to cut to raise the debt limit. Which is interesting that when Democrats controlled both House and the Senate, they did not go through that brinkmanship to compromise the credit history of credit of United States. And last time it happened it was Republicans who controlled the Senate, and president was Barack Obama. And that was the first time in history where the US credit rating was downgraded ever. And it may happen again this time. And it will have effect on you and me. And also, we should not forget the reason why we have inflation. Part of the inflation is because of the war in Ukraine, whether we agree or we not. Because there are few commodities which come out of Ukraine in large quantities. One is wheat, the other one is sunflower seeds. And they are both being monitored, controlled, shipment is controlled, even though there is an agreement. And believe it or not, Russia is actually the chair of at the United Nations in the Security Council, which is rotation, automatically it happens. And you know, the world is full of contradictions, but at the same time, out of those contradictions, how you still work together to find the common ground, that is what matters. And that's where, if we don't reach there, then there are issues. Because politics is fine, everything else is fine, but the common ground is very important. If we don't have any common ground, then we are in big trouble. And also, on the other hand, you know, we are talking about, when we talk about all this thing, today actually, in a case against Donald Trump for E. Jean Carroll, who actually had sued the former president Donald Trump for sexually assaulting her in a department store in 1990s. The hearings are going on right now. And where it would lead, your guess is as good as my guess is. And also, another thing, Taliban killed the ISIS head in Afghanistan, who actually bombed at the time of the evacuation, where 13 US soldiers died. And interestingly, the current US administration are keeping mum on it, and they just said that we have no role in this thing, which I doubt, because Taliban on its own I don't think they have the capacity and the capabilities of finding of the person where he is and what time and how to do it. And also, on the other hand, what we have is, I'm just going through some of the quick events which are happening. Joe Biden's campaign manager happens to be a Latinx. Even though Sarah Huckabee in Arkansas, she said she's putting a ban on using of this terminology. But Spanish people, when you talk to them, Latinos, they don't mind it. So what is happening here is, again, the governors are trying, at least in red states, a backdoor censorship. In Florida, you have the ban on the books, where in the libraries, the books were taken out because even the librarians were not sure which book they can leave on the shelf. DeSantis, the Florida governor, has ongoing open war with the Disney. And Disney is already talking about, if it went on and on, maybe move out of Florida. Hey, this is America. The corporation, they move from one place to another. Boeing used to be in Washington State, but they moved to, I think right now they are in Carolina. I don't know which one, North or South Carolina, their section. And their headquarters are in Chicago instead of in Washington State because of some reasons which are more political reasons than actually any other reason. So those are the things. And also what we have is Joe McCarthy is still trying to brinkmanship about between him and the President Joe Biden. Even though Joe Biden is on the face, it appears he is ignoring whatever is being said, but I doubt if he's really ignoring it, what's happening in the House, because U.S. Senate is controlled by the Democrats, so he's not that much worried about the Senate as much as he's worried about the House, and how, when, and where to sit down and talk, and what to negotiate and what not to negotiate, which will be on the table when they will sit down and talk about it. That is something which they will be talking about. And also at the end, because it is about time to go, like I always say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, and we need to work on that. New York State Assembly districts are being redrawn, so that's another factor which I definitely will touch when I come back next week for the show. Till next time, good night and good luck.